All right, I got it out of the pickle. The moment of truth. Let's see if it... All right. That looks perfect. I'm just gonna... Gotta be flattened a little. Looks great. One thing that I am gonna do is I'm gonna line them all up, and then I'm gonna mark with the Sharpie the center, because I want to have a visual indication of where I want to stop when I'm pushing these into the fire brick. And so this little Sharpie mark will be my indication on like when it's lined up about halfway. Basically, the Sharpie mark will burn off from the heat of the torch and it won't affect the soldering in any way. So the next thing I gotta do is I'm gonna mark where all of my little prongs are gonna line up on my circle when I'm soldering it. So I just trace the circle, I'm gonna cut it out, and then I'm gonna fold it. Ta-da! So now with my circle, so I'm gonna put one of the solder seams on one of the little areas where the prong is gonna be. And so then that is gonna lend itself really well. So I know where to place each one of these going all the way around the circle. But then also I know when, you can see there, I inserted it until it was at the center point. And so then my prong will be soldered halfway along the length of it. And also it will be soldered where it should be. Now I just gotta put all of these in the fire brick. I think it's ready for soldering now. Yay! I brought my little assemblage over to the soldering station now, and I kind of feel like at this point, like frankly, I feel like you should probably know what I'm about to do, but I'm about to put a little bit of flux on every single one of these solder connections and then a little tiny pallion of solder. All right. We're gonna solder this puppy. And then I just do an overall heating of the entire piece, or of the entire assemblage. And I'm heating it very slowly because I've got a lot of solder pallions that are just dying to go jumping because the flux has water in it. And so when the moisture is like bubbling out of the flux and evacuating from that material, the solder pallions just want to go everywhere. And so just be patient, take my time, kind of like keep an eye on all of them. Alright, so then I just kind of do one final check, making sure. So now all of the flux has kind of like melted down, and it's creating a barrier so that the areas that the flux was at, oops, I just accidentally turned my torch off. But anyways, it's creating a barrier for to prevent oxidation from where I want the solder to flow. And so I'm just gonna maybe just concentrate on these four and get these ones to go. Kind of looks like this one only soldered on the rings. I'm going to put an extra piece in there. and connect those two. This is when those like fancy schmancy like Lazy Susan soldering things come in handy, but I'm kind of low budget right now, so I don't have one of those. Alright, looks like everything is soldered. This is what it looks like now that it's soldered, and I'm going to pry it off of the fire brick, and then I'm gonna put it in the pickle and see what it looks like after all the oxidation and gunk and old flux has been cleaned off of it. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing, you know, with my little piece of paper and my circle and my Sharpie, you know. So with the solder, I'm making sure that both the ring and the prong straight piece have plenty of flux on both of them, especially where I want the solder to flow in between them and connect them. And then I'm putting the solder pallion like right in that corner where they're touching each other. Well, doesn't that look like a turd nugget? I mean, it's beautiful. I'm just gonna pry it. Ta-da! Look at that. It's still wicked hot, but we're gonna put it in the pickle and then we're gonna see what it looks like after that. Let's see how this turned out. Let me rinse it. All right. Yeah, I mean, it looks good. A lot of them need, oh, hi. They might need a little straightening out. You know, when I pushed them into the fire brick, they all were kind of at an angle because I was trying to keep pressure on the ring to keep it in place. And so now they just need to be straightened. But they all soldered on there and they all look like good solder connections. I'm sure that you noticed I had to squeeze a couple of them because, you know, I was trying to do it all in one solder go because, you know, I'm trying to have fun here. But if it was like a more high stakes, high pressure, I probably would have done 4 and then take it out and then pickle it and then press it back in the fire brick and done the last 4. But, you know, sometimes I like to push it. Okay, I've got some really nice parallel pliers. I actually have a collection. Some would say an addiction or maybe a problem, but I've got quite a few parallel pliers because they're so helpful. And so I'm just gonna use them to straighten out these individual little pieces. And if they're gonna, oh, we lost one. We already lost one. But that's like kind of the name of the game is if I'm gonna lose them, I'd rather lose them now than after I have cut them down to size. All right, so here's my straightened out pieces, and here's the one that you know, the piece broke off and I got to solder that back on. And then I've just been playing around with some copper wire that's the same thickness as this wire, which is the 14 gauge. And so I think I pretty much have my kind of bracket figured out. But yeah, it's gonna kind of look something like that. I'm gonna cut this one pretty much to size, and then this is gonna be my kind of like story stick. But to make this curve, I just wrapped it around the base of my hoop mandrel. And so I'm gonna do the same thing here. All right, so I got my same curvature there. So I'm gonna cut 4 of these out of the sterling silver. It's gonna look something like that. I think I'm gonna solder these brackets together first and put this little guy that fell off on there, solder that, and then I gotta solder some little half jump rings onto the tops of these and then solder them onto these components. Yeah, let's get that underway. Found a nice flat spot on my fire brick, and I'm gonna get some flux on there. It's more important that I get the flux in between there and all around there than they stay in place, because I can always reposition them like right now. I have some hard solder. I put 1. This is kind of like a bigger solder pallion, but looks like it's the only big one that I've got pre-cut, so I'm maybe gonna put 2 on this one. I don't know, that might be too much. Maybe I should just do 2 little ones and see. Whoa, where did my solder pallion go? Do you guys see it? Oh, dang. Well, it's gone. Let's get another one on there. No worries. Let's go with this one now. Gonna push that together again. There we go. Beautiful. All right, as soon as that solidifies, I'm gonna knock it out of the way. And with the second one, we're just gonna do the same thing. You know, sometimes the flux tends to expand a little bit when the moisture is bubbling out from under it. And so if your pieces are just kind of setting, then the flux will like push them apart a little bit. And so I like to go in and just like kind of touch them back together. And then heat them up evenly, and the solder just runs right down the 2 of them. Now I'm gonna pickle these and work on setting up the more difficult solder job, which is the one that broke. So I'm surprised that I only had 1 that broke, but I'm gonna set this up. All right, so from this angle you can tell, or maybe you can't tell, but this is the one that needs to be fixed. I'm gonna get our flux all up in that stuff, and then maybe we'll use the big one that we didn't use before, big solder pallion. And then just heat it up. See what happens. Some would say this is probably too big of a torch tip for what I'm doing right now. And maybe I'm just lazy because I'm not switching to a smaller torch tip. But if you can swing it, or are you just saving time? Looks great. All right, I just gotta pickle this and get the other guys out of the pickle, rinse them, and maybe make some half jump rings.